I'm a dry stone waller, and this story involves dry stone walls. And anyone that lives in an area like this with dry stone walls knows that's something that happens to them when they get older. Sometimes they fall down, at least in small bits, gaps form. And these days, if we look at that, we would understand that that's gravity. Some flooding, some frost, the ground moves, stones get loose, and then gravity takes hold and pulls it down. And it's quite unusual to see it, but you might be walking past and see a wall rush, and that's the term for when a gap forms, as a rush. But this story that passed around amongst wallers is an idea about why walls rush that predates our scientific understanding. So it's called the King of Dunnerdale. And Dunnerdale is a valley in the South Lakes that is a bit quieter than some others, and it's got rough fells around the back. And the story goes that a long time ago, before written history, before the Romans were in this country, there was a chieftain, a king, who ruled some of the valleys of the South Lakes, but his seat of his power was in Dunnerdale, so he was called the King of Dunnerdale. And one day, rumours reached him that a great army had set out from Northumberland in the northeast of England and was roaming across the north of the country and seizing lands and deposing rulers. And this worried him quite a lot, so he gathered all his nobles together to make a plan. And they decided that they couldn't assemble an army to face the Northumbrians. It was too large, so instead they would try and hide and wait him out, and when the army had been away from home too long and overextended itself, they'd have to return home, and they could come out from hiding and take control of their lands again. So he sent out messengers to all the valleys of his kingdom and asked for the best wallers to all report to him. And they all came along, and he took them up to a cave at the back of the valley and said, we're going to get in the cave with a load of provisions, you're going to wall us in, make it look natural, and no one will know we're here. So that was the plan. They put provisions in the cave, and the wallers did an internal wall that was as neat, as strong as possible, so as not to collapse in on the people in the cave, and then arranged stones around the outside to look natural and not attract attention. That was done. A few days passed, and a week. No army had arrived. So they had to take the wall down, put more provisions in. Same thing happened for another week. And same thing, you had to take it down, put more provisions in. By now the nobles and the king were looking quite unwell. They hadn't seen the sun for a few weeks. And the king said, at the end of the third week, if no armies arrived, we're scrapping the plan. We're coming back out. And at the end of the third week, the walls were about to go back up and take the wall down for the final time. But the elders from the community gathered together all the people and said, don't do that. Here's the truth. There never was an army from Northumberland. We put that rumour about, and we encouraged the king to go into the cave because he's corrupt, he's unjust, he's not a good king. Hasn't life been better without him around? And all the local people had to agree, yeah, it'd been much better. They'd looked after their own affairs and everything. And so the elders said, right, go home and bring back a valuable possession. Everyone did that, and they paid off the wallers. They said, here's some money, go back to your valleys and never say another word about it. Leave the king in the cave. And that's what happened. So, of course, the cave became a tomb for the king and all his nobles. And so the story goes that when a wall rushes, it's actually the ghostly hands of the King of Dunnerdale and his noblemen reaching up from the underworld and clawing at the stones to escape.